So the Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024, meeting of the Richmond Community Police Review Commission is now called to order. It is 7:10 p.m. May we please have a roll call?
Chair Carol Hagstrom,
Here.
Vice Chair Rachel Lorber,
Here.
Commissioners Marisol Cantu.
She is signing up, so she's
Oh,
coming back.
okay. We'll call her.
There she is, just on time. It's okay. We started late.
And I say Marisol.
Yes.
Oscar Flores,
Here.
Oscar Garcia,
Here.
Andre Jackson,
Here.
Stephen Lacey is absent, Daniel Lawson,
Here.
Carmen Martinez.
Here.
And we have our council liaison, Claudia Jimenez, and our council Shannon.
Presente. Presente.
Hey.
All right. May we please have the statement of conflict of interest?
So do any commissioners have any conflicts that they want to report that are currently on regarding any of the agenda items listed tonight?
Okay, hearing none, we move on. Agenda review. Are there any, Johnny, do you have any more copies of the agenda?
There's one, Chair, that for item 11A under new business, tonight it's going to be modified as a discussion item, and I think the actual vote will take place at a meeting in November. So for now, it should be modified. A discussion regarding recommendations to the city council to amend, and I think, amend chapter 3.54 020B3 or 1 through 3. So for tonight's, it will be just a discussion item.
Okay, thank you, and you're okay with that? Yes. All right. Okay, now we move on to approval of the minutes. We have copies of the
Do we need
minutes.
to make a motion for the agenda, or?
Oh, do we need to make a motion for the agenda review?
No, okay, sorry.
Okay, now we move on to the approval of minutes. Would somebody like to make a motion? Well, first of all, does anybody have any corrections or changes to the minutes? No? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
We have a second? That's Dan Lawson and Rachel seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Okay, you should say it. Oscar Flores is abstaining. Any nays? Okay, the motion passes with one abstention. Okay, now we move on to public forum. Anyone who wishes, you want to read that, Johnny?
No, go ahead.
Anyone who wishes to address the commission on a topic related to the commission but not on the agenda must file a speaker's request form with the staff liaison or raise your hand via Zoom. A 3-minute limit subject to chairperson's discretion. Do we have a lot of public comments?
We have 9, 1 online, so 10, and then I have 3 comments to read into the record from September 4th.
So I think I'm going to take it down to 2 minutes per person because otherwise we'll be here late.
Okay?
Are you going to call the public speakers?
Yeah, so I'm going to read into I'm going to read into the record the public comments from September 4th. So these were comments that would have been read at the meeting. I was absent, and so these comments didn't reach the commission. So I'm going to go ahead and read them, and then they'll be attached to the meeting minutes for October. Okay? So I'll start the timer. This is from Birdie, Hello Commission, I'm emailing as a concerned homeowner of Richmond. I want to make sure that RPD is held accountable for the officers that acted misconduct and ensure that every officer is held to a standard that ensures that Black and brown people are safe from historic racial discrimination and prejudice. In order to do that, I want to bring it to the Commission's attention that there are things that I'm hearing, witnessing, and have even experienced that make me uncomfortable and have brought me to speak up. I want justice for Kwesi Gus, a Richmond resident who was violently struck and detained by RPD Sergeant Kane. How am I, a homeowner, supposed to feel safe when a sergeant violates a resident's first constitutional right? I saw the video. Sergeant Kane needs to be held accountable and justice needs to be served to Kwesi. We shop at the same places, we go to the same parks, and as neighbors, I want you folks, the Commission, to be empowered to make sure that events like this don't happen. Thank you for listening. I know you'll do the right thing. All right. Next comment is from Angelica. From Angelica to the Commission. I've been a resident for not a long time yet, just moved earlier this year. I wanted to share my story after a few friends told me what happened to Kwesi. My sister has been a resident for years and I used to visit frequently before moving out here. At the time I was minor and I had a mental breakdown due to an undiagnosed mental health issue. My sister had no idea what was happening and I was completely immobilized due to a physical chronic issue that I have. No one helped us, no doctors, no mental health facility, no police officer. I was neglected because my case was not believable. My sister called 911 to get help, and when the officer came, he told my sister he didn't know what to do. He offered to speak to me, but I was mentally incapable of holding a conversation. My sister and sister's partner were also scared because what if he deemed me a threat and killed me? It's something that has happened all over this country. He just left. I was sick for a full year, bedbound. This could have played out differently if we had got the help from someone that served the community. I'm looking to you, the Commission, to make sure that if someone comes to you with a tricky case, that you can do something about it. Please don't let my story go down as just bad luck. I believe that a strong Commission can make a difference. Thank you. Next one is from, I believe is Dominici Morris. Hi, I'm Dominici, a Richmond resident of District 3. I believe that the Community Police Review Commission is a great way to hold police officers accountable and be more transparent about misconduct and abuse by RPD officers. Not too long ago, I became aware that this commission even existed. I appreciated that there was a commission made up of members of the community that would be able to hold officers accountable instead of non-transparent processes that could or could not be happening internally within the RPD. A concern that I have is the 120 days to submit a complaint. I recently submitted a complaint for another person that faced abuse at the hands of an RPD officer. Luckily, I was within the 120-day period, but there are so many that have not filed a complaint with the commission because they didn't know it existed or how to do so. Other cities like Berkeley do not have a time limitation. We need to expand and utilize the best practices and procedures in order to create a more just Richmond. Thank you. So that is the public record or the public comment for September 4th meeting. And now we have Cordell Hindler. You'll be given 2 minutes.
Wow. Thank you, Shani, for reading all those comments. So good evening, Chair Ekstrom, Commissioners. I am Cordell Hindler. I have wonderful news to share with you all. But first, I do want to welcome Oscar Flores to this commission. I'm like, it's about time. We need one more person. So I'm glad that you stepped up to the plate, and I'm just grateful for that. So that being said, after listening to the meeting of last month, I was kind of surprised that there was a lot of dialogue between the community and the commission, and I'm like, after attending a number of city council meetings, I'm like, I learned my lesson. I don't dialogue with a governing body, never. So after what Commissioner Lawson had said, I was like, he's absolutely correct. He's like, we have to show a little bit of decorum and I know, because I've been in public meetings myself, and I know how to be civilized. So I'm just hoping that we try to have a good message for everyone. We want all voices to be heard. And then the last thing is, I'm inviting everyone to the Richmond Rotary Club weekly meeting on October the 25th at 12:30 at the Richmond Country Club. And our speaker for that one will be Berkeley Mayor Jesse Iredine, who will be talking with us about Out to Bake. So that's a very important meeting. So, and it's $25, and that includes lunch too. So please do attend. How'd I do on time, Shawnee?
You have 33 seconds to raise. Okay, next speaker, Rick Perez. Rick, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, everybody. For those of you new faces here that I'm not familiar with, I'm Petey Perez's father, the last one unarmed, murdered by the police. I used to be a fixture here, but due to COVID, I kind of dropped out. I'm back. And anyway, I'm talking to several people that are here today about what's his name, Kawisi. And I think got a chance to meet him at the last city council meeting that I attended. And it's just unreal that the police would act that way, and even knowing that's not acceptable in our community. And then I wish Mr. Venturiel was here as well.
He's online.
He's he's online. Hi, Ben. Talking to some of these other people here, these younger people that are probably my son's age, or what my son would be age, he probably is a little intimidating to them, and maybe he should listen to them. They got a lot of good ideas, and one of them is police accountability, and I really don't like the idea that the Police Officers Association wants to dictate to us what the laws are going to be. We're a community of our own, and we have ideas for our own community. They have a lot of good input, but it's not always the best input. We have a lot of good input, maybe we're not always the best input. But I just, again, that officer that intimidated Kwesi needs to be held accountable. That situation could very much ended up like my son's. He could be a dead man right now, and that would not be cool for the city of Richmond or the police department. Thank you.
Okay, next person, Rosie Rendon. Okay, go ahead, you have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Rosie and I live in District 6 and have been a resident for about 5-6 years. I have growing concerns when it comes to the way our governing system keeps RPD in check. The Community Police Review Commission could be improved to do what this commission is designed to do: review misconducts and develop programs and strategies to promote positive police-community relations. With this in mind, one of the things that could be added to improve this commission is the scope of what could be investigated. Had I complained about one of my experiences, it would have not fallen under the scope of what the commission can currently investigate. Why is the commission only allowed to investigate when serious bodily harm is done? The damage is done. Earlier this year, one of our Richmond residents were harmed when he was exercising his amendment right to, when he was exercising his First Amendment right. And what's gonna happen to the sergeant? It was exposed this month that Richmond has signed clean record agreements that hides information about an officer's misconduct so that future employers of that officer don't know about it. Is he going to be another officer that just transfers and continues the harm that he already has on record? What is the commission going to do to prevent stuff like this from happening? What is the commission going to do to protect our community?
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next person, Adrian Rocio. You have 2 minutes.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Adrian, and I'm a lifelong Richmond resident. I'm a concerned community member, and I'm calling on the CPRC to hold police officers accountable and be more transparent about misconduct and abuse by RPD officers. As a community member, I'm concerned about how many RPD officers are harming our community because they have gone unchecked by this committee. I believe that the CPRC should have the authority to review any incident that involves the use of a canine, baton, taser, and/or military weapon as defined by AB 481. Regardless of whether there is an injury, RPD already has to report when they use military weapons, and they should report it to the CPRC as the oversight body. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Andrew Melendez.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Andrew.
I'm a lifelong Richmond resident, and I'm here today to advocate once again for the strengthening of the Community Police Review Commission and its ability to hold police accountable. For far too long in Richmond, we have seen countless incidents of residents being mistreated and wrongly harmed by police officers who operate under weak protections for accountability. When P.D. Perez was shot and killed, there was no real accountability for the offending officer. When Kwesi Gus was assaulted, there was no real accountability for the offending officer. Our commission needs to stand as a beacon of hope for Richmond residents who face mistreatment against the police. And this must be done by increasing its transparency measures. We need longer statutes of limitations to file complaints. We need expanded instances of automatic review by this commission. And we need the offending RPD officer's name published when under investigation, and so much more. We need to make sure that no one is above the law. Thank you so much for your time.
Raven Wendell.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Raymond Wendell. I'm a San Pablo resident with close ties to Richmond, and I'm a big believer in civilian oversight of the police, which can offer major benefits to the community, as I'm sure you all know. But to achieve that, oversight bodies have to meet certain standards, and according to the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, the most critical feature of an effective oversight body is transparency. I'm concerned that under the current system, misconduct committed by RPD officers is shrouded in secrecy. And my fears were heightened recently when I read an article in the San Francisco Chronicle that another commenter also mentioned about clean record agreements. The article cited Richmond as one of the agencies, RPD as one of the agencies that has executed clean record agreements with officers, which means that many of these officers may have been able to get jobs as police officers in other communities who didn't know about their records of misconduct. That's just the kind of secrecy that hurts public trust in the police. And so I'm calling on this commission to bring greater transparency to police in Richmond, starting with your own investigations. Here are some changes that I think need to be made. So currently, when the commission completes an investigation, the only record made available to the public is that one-page public case summary, which is a very short description. It anonymizes the officers involved, but lists the full names of community members who come forward to voice complaints. I think that Richmond can do better than that. It should be releasing all records to the full extent permitted by California law, like San Francisco does. That should include the names of officers when legally permissible, but it should redact the names of complainants and civilian witnesses as in other jurisdictions. In addition, the public case summaries contain no information about what happens to officers after the commission has made a finding of misconduct. That information should be made public. In other words, we should be able to find out whether the chief of police and city manager agree with the commission's findings and whether they impose any discipline. No one's above the law, but without transparency, there can be no effective accountability. As Justice Brandeis once said, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Hope Dixon.
Hello, my name is Hope Dixon, and I am a resident here in Richmond. I am also an educator at the local community college, and I am your community representative on the Council of Homelessness for Contra Costa. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about what's going on with our homeless population and how it correlates to the abuses that I'm seeing. Specifically, I have seen in the last year, Richmond police laugh at suicides of homeless youth. I have seen disproportionate impact on Black and brown youth and students. I have seen tremendous trauma. And to see all that trauma and to know that students, they only have 120 days to go ahead and make a report, to make a complaint if they are aware. It's terrible, it's horrible. And so I'm reaching out today, I'm here standing in solidarity with my community because I'm asking for more accountability. Because through accountability and transparency, we can then get to transformation. And I know that we can transform ourselves to be a more just community for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Duran.
Hola, buenas noches. Good evening, commissioners. I am calling on the Community Police Review Commission to be more transparent about misconduct and abuse by our PD officers and to actually hold police accountable. I worry about the commission's lack of power, transparency, and effectiveness. On May 5th, Kwesi Gus became a victim of police violence, something that my unborn daughter at the time and myself survived. PD Perez was murdered in Richmond by RPD, and although this commission will not acknowledge his death as a murder by RPD, the city of Richmond is, and is changing the street to PD Perez Avenue, forever reminding this community and those in power that they are not above the law. No matter how long ago it was, justice will be served. This community deserves better from this commission. Kwesi's abuse should have been immediately investigated, even if no one had filed a complaint to this commission. Kwesi's abuse and PD's murder is something residents of Richmond are familiar with. The Community Police Review Commission should be able to investigate any reported police misconduct filed to RPD. The city of Richmond is so low on police officers, they are taking police with documented abusive behaviors and killings in the communities they have served before. The city of Richmond needs to make a community police review commission to a department in the city that can actually hold police accountable without the reliance of police department's approval of recommendations. The last meeting that was conducted, I attended it, and it was my first meeting ever, and I'm dedicating myself to hold space in the Community Police Review Committee meetings because I saw a lack of community engagement. And if people don't know this commission, how can it improve? How can it do what it's designed to do? So I am calling on this commission to see itself to a standard that can actually make change for justice and keep police accountable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amber Canfield.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Amber Hatfield, and I'm a Richmond resident in District 3, raising a child in the Coronado neighborhood. First, I would like to thank you all for the time and attention that you have devoted to police accountability by sitting on this commission, and for every effort you have made to provide recourse for those in our community who have suffered from police misconduct. I'm here tonight because the guidelines and strictures placed on this commission are allowing real harm to go uninvestigated and unaddressed. Recently, a video has circulated of Richmond community member Casey Guess being targeted and assaulted by RPD while exercising his right to witness and record their actions. The fact that his case did not come under immediate review is deeply concerning. Other cities in our area do not have such limitations on which cases can be automatically reviewed or on the amount of time a person has to file a complaint. We need to bring our commission guidelines up to these standards. Another concerning issue is that even when complaints do receive review, investigation, and police misconduct has been confirmed, those results have gone unheeded by the police chief, who is under little or no obligation to administer corrective action, such as in the case of Wallace Jensen, who murdered P.D. Perez in 2014 and was allowed to retire comfortably with no other consequences. In sum, I hope that as commissioners, you agree that your work here is needed and is of utmost importance to check and balance the power wielded by our police force. And I hope that you will do everything in your power to change those limitations so that this commission can bring justice to our community when the police department cannot. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have 2 online speakers. I'm gonna call Lisa Johnson first and then Eli Moore. Lisa Johnson, go ahead, you have 2 minutes. Oh.
We just need to adjust the volume. Hold on.
Can you speak again so we can?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, perfect. Good evening. I'm speaking tonight to recommend that the CPRC be put on hold until several conditions can be met and appropriate guardrails enacted. Sadly, this body as a whole has been delegitimized. First and foremost, I support the CPRC, its intended mission, and I believe in and support police accountability. The CPRC ordinance states up front that the purpose of this commission is to promote positive relations between the community and the police department, and the mayor shall endeavor to appoint individuals representing diverse social, economic, and political interests. Prior to the appointment of Commissioner Oscar Flores, the previous 5 commission appointments, all by Mayor Martinez, have neither respected the purpose nor diverse makeup of the commission. One of those appointees, Commissioner Lorber, is a public defender. At the time of her appointment, several people expressed legitimate concerns. Based on the closed session vote last month and the legitimate ethical and legal issues raised in Mr. Threet's resignation letter, she has proven that she cannot be trusted to follow the ethics and the rules of professional conduct for which she is bound by the California State Bar. Let me be very clear. Commissioner Lorber is bound by the same ethics and rules of professional conduct that bind Mr. Threet and under which he resigned. There is no one reviewing complaints to verify that none of the complainants or witnesses therein are a client, former client of hers or her colleagues. Unfortunately, the trust in her to serve on this commission in a fair and unbiased manner has been irreparably fractured. Of serious concern, 3 other public defenders donated to Councilmember Claudia Jimenez's 2020 campaign. 2 of those are her colleagues and have been there longer, and her reporting structure to them is unknown. As for the other 4 commissioners appointed by Mayor Martinez, all 4 are members of Reimagine Richmond. 3 of those are believed to have done unethical votes last month. Additionally, there are 2 serious concerns with 2 of those commissioners. One has been paid by Councilmember Claudia Jimenez in her 2024 re-election campaign.
Your time has
Sorry,
expired. Next person is Eli Moore. Go ahead, Eli, you have 2 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great, thank you. Hello, commissioners, community. A few comments. One, I think it's really unfortunate and disingenuous, really, that the investigator laid out allegations against the commissioners with no details. They haven't been substantiated. There was no formal complaint, and yet people are, like the previous speaker, are latching onto this as though it's some scandal. And it's interesting, the timing of this, right? When there were finally proposals to make the Police Review Commission effective, transparent, accountable, actually able to fulfill its mission, that's when there's suddenly concerns about ethics that actually have no substance. There weren't concerns, what was it, about a year ago, when 2 commissioners appointed by the previous mayor actually had to publicly apologize for trying to get the investigator to change his findings, because that conflict was in favor of the police. But there were no calls at that point for putting the commission on pause or some sort of ethics scandal. And so I think what we're seeing here is a body that is actually going to start fulfilling its mission with these specific proposals that are really just bringing it up to standard practice in the region. This is about differentiating between cops who are being professional and ethical and cops who are carrying out misconduct. Look at Oakland, you look at San Francisco, they already have these practices in place. And so what is the problem here? Why would this discourage officers from coming to Richmond if they're really just going to have to be?
Time is up. Thank you. All right, is that the final speaker now?
Yes.
Okay, we now move on to report by our city council liaison.
Thank you so much.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I am glad that I didn't come last meeting because the next day I tested COVID positive. So, and thank you everybody here for coming. This is great. On my 3 or 4 years that I have been here, this is the time that I have seen more engagement, and I hope that you continue to be engaged. This is how we make changes for the better. So thank you everybody for coming and express your concerns and proposal. Actually, you have been really inspiring because you are not just complaining, you are just pointing out changes that can be good for the better. So thank you so much to everybody. So I just wanted to say a few things before I start Carmen was my intern. She got, and I feel like I was a really good mentor that after she ends the internship with me, she said, you know what, I want to be engaged in the community, and I am going to volunteer in this body. So thank you so much for doing that, and thank you for being engaged. So yeah, he was my intern paid by the youth boards. Thank you so much. But now she is volunteering that and continue to be engaged and continue to be engaged with me. So this is what we want young people to do, continue to do. So I want to talk a little bit of, last night we have another really long city council meeting. And but it was interesting. So one of the things that we did that was brought by Councilmember Doria was the rename of Virginia Play Lab to Florida Events Park, and Florida was really anchored in our community, and I'm glad that I motioned it, and it was seconded by Councilmember Doria Robinson. We also discussed the Art Corridor project plan and give the award to one of the two organizations, and what we say, like what we did, and it was an unanimous vote to give to Renaissance, which is a collaboration of many artists that have been working. So we will be excited to see what they are coming. The art corridor is from McDonald's, part of McDonald's to 23rd, and some part of the 23rd. And so we are hoping to see this proposal really soon, and hopefully the city council can really support the ideas and move on that. Then we have surplus. Since I got here, we have been having surplus in a row, and I am really proud of that. So we were able to allocate that, and some of the money went to the Borman Park rehabilitation. And one thing that I have been working with street vendors is and here it is a lot, like the mobile vendor park, which we put $100,000 first. Yes, last night we committed $500,000 for that program. Up to now, there are 20 street vendors that are part of the program. We hope that there is more. We are starting in one location, but we hope that we can have other locations. The location that we are right now is the parking lot on McDonald and Marina Way. Thursday from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. The opening kind of like is going to be 2 Saturdays from now. I will send you.
They've already had it twice.
The opening?
Yeah.
No, there is an official opening. So
okay.
They are starting already, but the official opening is pretty soon. So we have been working on trying to make sure that it gets some equipment, and we do. So we are working really hard, and staff is working really hard to make this happen. But the success of this program depends on all of us going there and buy their food. And so there is arepas from Venezuela, Thai food, and so many other good things. So, and then they are also, the program not only have these 2 days there, but also because the operator is the same group that operates the farmers market. They are providing the spaces in the 2 farmers markets that we have here. One is on Fridays in front of the main library, and the other is in Marina Bay. And people are loving the Marina Bay farmers markets, and they told me like all the street vendors that are part of that they sell everything. So we are hoping that it continues, and we can provide another space to provide other 2 days. So it's not just 2 days, but 4 days plus the 2 days in the farming market to make it kind of like financially viable for the street vendors. So that is So then, yeah, so we allocated the $5.7 million. We know that there was like the side shows in Hilltop, and I talked to Chief Simmons and the police chief, and the plan that they are doing is to work in collaboration with other agencies. One of the comments that Chief Simmons said is that this is not an unique problem of Richmond, that many other cities have been dealing with that. So now the idea is how they can create a regional body to get resources together to do that, to call on the sheriff and to call on other things to really prevent this kind of situation from happening. And then is it? I don't have any other more things to say. So thank you.
Do any of the commissioners have questions or comments for Vice Mayor Jimenez? Oscar.
Yeah, any thoughts on or concerns about the investigator quitting?
Well, he didn't quit, he was already leaving. So I think my concern, reality, is that how he sent this email really in an unprofessional way to everybody, and it was leaked to the e-forum, and it created all these things without really giving us a lot of information. And I think, like, what I think is the reality is that there are many new commissioners that are doing a really good job engaging community, and these things are going to happen. But he made, like, I don't know what happened because it was in closed session, but 2 years ago there were pretty serious accusations from him around 2 commissioners here that tried to change the fundings, and it was a public meeting that Jenny Garcia was the chair, and she was really disencouraged and put it out there. Nobody, like, he didn't, like, he mentioned that, but he didn't kind of like make a full disclosure as he did this. So I think we knew that he was leaving. He already said it before. So we are having a plan to make sure that we will have another person. For me, but it's just me, so it's just one vote. I wish that we can have a full-time investigator that actually is from the area that can come here, that the reports are not only from one side, but also from being able to work in the community and be able to have more conversations. So for me, it wasn't like, I don't think like he quit. I think like it was more like he was already going out. He already said it. And it seems difficult to me to understand why these allegations were coming, criticizing new commissioners when they are, like, I don't know, like, but I feel like 2 years ago we had pretty serious concerns of commissioners doing things that should not be done, and nobody made these big things. So I think like we should put this in perspective about what is happening, and we will continue to have support. Like, so I am advocating for a full-time, modest, like, I think like this body is really important, and the staffing level that we have for this body with that important task is not adequate. So I think like this is an opportunity that gives to elevate the issue and make it better. But I am one vote, so hopefully we can have more with this.
Dan, did you have a question?
Yeah, I like on the same topic that Commissioner Garcia just brought up, but
I was actually, and I shared some of this with you in a private letter, but I just want to like say this on the record that I was.
Are we able to make comments, call to order? I thought it was just questions.
It's not call to order.
Are we able to make comments? Because
Are you making a comment or are you addressing,
yeah.
I'm addressing
okay,
Councilmember.
he's addressing the topic.
Oh, because I didn't make a comment thinking, but I guess I'll make a comment afterwards.
So I thought that this is my first time in here, but I thought the agreement was that Vice Mayor Jimenez would provide a report, and then if there were questions, that those questions would be posed to Vice Mayor Jimenez. So I just want to make sure that, I think that's, and then we go into the public comment after.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
okay,
so
that's what I was
Right.
prepped for.
Thank you. All right, so I'll ask a question. So my question is, as we're preparing to find a new independent investigator, will efforts be made to make sure that the new investigator will show a greater level of competence than our previous investigator? Like, by the way, speaking of new commissioners, when I was a new commissioner, when I'd been on this body for 3 months, I asked about a case where somebody died in police custody 2 years earlier, and it had never been investigated. And this is this gentleman's only job, was to keep track of investigations, investigate cases, give us investigative reports, and so so my question is, will we make an effort to make sure that when we get a new independent investigator, that they will actually do investigations in a timely manner? They will not let deaths in custody slip through the crack for years. And then when it's brought to their attention, will not attempt to blame Mr. Aubrey from the city government, who notified the investigator in a timely manner as soon as the incident happened. It had happened 2 years earlier. So that's my question, is will we make an effort to make sure that we actually get a commissioner or an investigator that does not show such gross incompetence in what is basically the only job that they have?
Oh,
Thank you.
that's harsh.
Oscar.
Sorry.
Did you finish talking?
He's out of order, he's not allowed to talk.
Okay, thank you. So, I think I didn't work with him closely, so I cannot say anything, but what some of the things that the city council wants to make sure is that the investigator is local. I know that when Mr. Threed was hired, he was local, but then he has to leave, move, and they were I think there were some issues around the commissioner feeling like if they allow him to leave, then there will be a gap as it was before. I think it was 2 years where the commission didn't have an investigator. So that was some concerns, and this is what it was allowed. So the idea is that we are bringing a consultants who I am hoping they are meeting with you guys to get some of your input about what you are expecting from an investigator. So I hope that you have the chance. If you haven't met with them, they can meet with us as well to get a sense of what the council as a whole is expecting. And I think another issue is the time. We didn't have a full-time, and again, a full-time investigator. Maybe that is as we continue and as I am hearing strengthening the Community Police Review Commission, there will be more things to do, but at the same time, one part is the investigation, and another part is to review the policies, procedures, and I think that part, you guys hasn't been able to do that much because 100% of the time has been in doing investigations. So just all these, I am sharing that conversation because I feel it's important that this body yeah, it's important investigation, it's important to have that response to the families, to make the complaints, but also to prevent these things from happening, to prevent that the complaint happen at the first time. This body has a really a big responsibility, and it goes into more proactive work around policies, procedures, and ideas on how to improve police accountability. So it's a big job that you all have, and I thank you so much for all of you to really doing this hard work, despite all the attacks of people thinking that you are here just for defending somebody or some idea. So that is kind of like, we have a system in place. Hopefully you can meet with the consultant. You can also be in the panel of hiring, so you can, like I am advocating that because you are the ones who work directly with that person, you have more ideas on what are the qualifications and who could be from the people, from the pool that is going to be applying, choose good. So thank you.
And also to remind, but to remind everyone, I think the recruiter's here, so you'll have a discussion item on this, or she'll provide an update.
Yeah, they
on the
are.
next day, so, anyway.
Any other comments or questions for President Jimenez? I have some questions. So it seems like there's a lot of interest in the community for us expanding our scope. If we hire, so you're saying that we will get a full-time investigator?
Well, I don't know. This is kind of like my proposal to the council, but I am one vote. For now, there is no formal decision whether it's part-time or full-time.
Okay, because if you look at other cities that are similar in size, like for example, Berkeley, you know, everybody talks about, oh, well, Oakland is doing this, and San Francisco is doing this, and Berkeley is doing this. Their budgets are $1.5 million for Berkeley, which is a similar size, almost 1.5 million, similar size. And so my question is, is the city council, and you as our liaison, are you going to give us the money that we need? You have extra money coming in now? We're going to ask for a lot more here. We're
Yeah.
going to need at least an investigator with at least an assistant, if not a second investigator. Berkeley has much more than that. We're going to need an office, an actual office perhaps, for the investigator to have an office here. You know, I don't know if it's this year, if our budget is already set for this year, but is there a way to get more for this year if we need it?
Well, this year, the budget, like, what we are hoping is that I hear that there is an intention to make some recommendation. I think the recommendation, I will recommend you that you also look at budgetary recommendations for that. Because I feel like it's one thing to say that you want to expand the scope and strengthen in different ways that you are talking about, but that that cannot be implemented if we continue to have the budget that is now.
Right.
So I think we are hoping that this recommendation also kind of like go side to side with like, okay, we hope that this is at the beginning and it can be incremental, right? Because as this goes up. So yeah, budgetary information will be good so we know how to support this in a more effective way. And I have been supporting, but like as I said, it's one vote, and I'm hoping that with all these things that are happening, and all these this messaging around the community police review commission, that it really gets to a point where we are putting this as an important thing within the city council priority. So I think like for me is as soon as the recommendation are, I will put it then on the agenda and have this discussion on public.
Okay, so when will we know whether we get a full-time investigator or only a part-time one? Because I think when they're doing their job search, they need to be able to say this job is for a full-time position, or they.
So they
just say one thing, it's, I mean, this is, we're listed on the agenda is an update
Okay.
from the recruiter.
I was
and
just
think
wondering
we
if,
should
she
not-
said that
but-
I was confused because she said something about, they don't know whether it's part-time or full-time, and
Yeah,
when
and
will we know?
this like what we like. I think like the consultants are collecting data to come and make a recommendation at the closed session.
Okay.
And it should be a separate agenda item, I think, the full-blown discussion around what the topic you're raising.
Thank you.
And then also when it's questions, not comments, you know, ask the question, we don't let Oscar comment, so we just wanted to keep it fair.
Yeah, thank you.
Make sure that you're just asking the question.
Okay,
not-
I thought I was asking a question. All right, so do we have anybody in the room who has a public comment on this item?
Well,
Shorty?
no, we don't.
But we
do
have some online?
Yeah, so online, if you have a public comment, please raise your hand. We have 3 speakers. The first person is Chabi, and you will be given 2 minutes. Go ahead and speak.
You can ask to unmute, I guess. You're muted.
Chabi, you have to unmute. Okay, we'll come back to you. Next speaker is Benjamin Terrio. Go ahead, Ben, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Ben Terrio, President of Richmond Police Officers Association. A little bit of feedback there. Look, this is the bottom line is why Jerry Threet left outside of his massive issues of allegations that he laid out. There's not enough work. There's just not enough work because your police department's not that bad. And it's funny to me that it's like, well, we need to go basically fish up some more complaints because there's not enough work. Berkeley has a budget of almost $800 million. That is almost, close to triple the size of the Richmond budget. We're not comparable cities. And if you want to compare like police commissions, Oakland is nothing compared to, it's a disaster. Berkeley, disaster. They've got huge issues. And it's just funny to me. It's like one of the reasons he was picking up other work is because there's not enough things to do here. And then to piggyback on some other comments that were made by commissioners, the tolling process, some of these processes, I don't think you guys really understand. And that's part of the problem. Jerry Threet was a pretty respectable civilian police investigator. He came from Sonoma. He'd done work before in San Francisco for the National Association of Civilian Law Enforcement Oversight. So it's hilarious to me that all of a sudden there's this spin or this redirection of, oh well, he doesn't know what he's doing and this and that. That's outrageous, and that's all going to get flushed out. That's fine. You guys can disparage him, but I think what he did was a pretty amazing thing, pretty mind blowing. And this comparison between the cities is absolutely ridiculous, and that's why you see like the political tap dance because there's Councilmember Jimenez knows there's not enough work. There's not enough work to be done. I think the hope is to have more work.
Okay, next speaker is Lisa Johnson. Lisa, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to clarify something that Councilmember Jimenez said, and that is that Jerry Threet did quit. He was a contracted employee. He did quit. So to say he didn't quit is a misnomer. And we have to stop with misinformation coming from this body. I also would love it if Councilmember Jimenez would comment on what appears to be conflicts of interest with 2 commissioners, having paid one of them on her 2024 reelection campaign. She's received money from a second commissioner, Commissioner Lawson, on her 2024 reelection campaign. And his spouse continues to be part of her reelection campaign. She's listed as the responsible party on her social media pages. I mean, she is the CPRC liaison from the council. These are clear conflicts of interest, and I hope to God the city attorney's office addresses this and puts appropriate guardrails in place and replaces Claudia Jimenez as the council liaison, and we get somebody else who is going to serve in a fair and unbiased manner. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go back to Chavi. And I apologize if I have your name wrong. Go ahead and unmute. You have 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's kind of dark, like I'm in my backyard. But I was surprised, like, the Zoom meeting, I could even, talk or something. Yeah, so what I think is like the police department is trying, and, we hear this and that, but from a lot of people who don't suffer like what we're suffering at Iron Triangle, I live there. And whatever the person, like the investigator said, I'm pretty damn educated. I heard like some of the people, some of my fellow residents using difficult words and stuff like that. But I think they're trying. And instead of blaming them, we should actually support them, what they're doing. I live here in Iron Triangle with my kids. I have 2 little kids, a daughter, Malia, and my son, 8 months old. So we should support them. And I do not honestly believe in whatever the investigator said or put it on emails and stuff like that. So that's, I'm on the Richmond Police Department side, the police commissioner's side. They're trying, and we need to make this place safer and better. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I finish? So I think everybody's trying, and I just really commend this body to try also hard to make sure that we have a police accountability. It's hilarious that the RPOA president said that now he's supporting the investigator when he before was attacking him. So things change, and I will commend the city attorney to look into if there is a conflict of interest for me being here, because some people donate to my campaign. And if this is a conflict of interest, let's do this. I don't think I believe that. This is political attacks. We are in campaign season and everybody is making a fuss out of things that don't need to be. So I am really interested in supporting this commission. For me, has been really important, police accountability, because this is the way that we can also support the police department and also support our community. And we have a good police department, we have a good chief, but still there are some issues that we need to be able to make sure that there is some check and balance, especially with a department that has a lot of power, a department that sworn officer carry guns, and so it's both. It's like they are trying, I know that, and we in this body, you are trying, and it's not like they versus us, it's more how we make sure that all of us are supporting the residents to be safe and feel protected in the city. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, now we move on to the report by the Chief of Police, Chief Bisa French. It's your turn.
Good evening, Commissioners. Starting out my report, there is nothing that changed in terms of our staffing from our last meeting. Still significantly understaffed. Trying to meet the expectations of the community, doing our best. I did do two promotions or I announced promotions this week. Officer Terry Thomas and Officer Andy Bensi both being promoted to rank of sergeant, and they will be effective on the 13th of this month. In terms of crime, in the month of September, we've seen increases in crime in the following categories: sexual assault, theft, aggravated assault, robbery, and arson. We saw decreases in homicides, one in the month of August to zero last month. Vehicle thefts and burglary. And we remain at homicides for the year. In terms of the other things we've been involved in this past month, we participated with the fire department and the memorial run. We had a meeting with the Latino Center, trying to bridge the gap with that portion of our community that we have not been able to engage with. And so engaging with the Latino Center, we had a very productive meeting. We're able to ask questions about our police department and our responses and their particular crime issues. I was a guest speaker at UC Berkeley regarding the Justice Act. We were involved in Latin American Independence Day Parade. We were involved in the Elsa Bryant Pride, which was in the city of Richmond. We had our LGBTQ liaison on hand as well as other officers. We had a coffee with a cop that had bubble tea, so it was actually more like bubble tea with a cup, and that was very successful. I was on a panel for 30 by 30 initiative, which is an initiative to have more women in law enforcement by the year 2030. It's a nationwide initiative. Met with the county probation and PAL for the diversion program. We started a program at PAL several years ago. Expand that with the Department of Probation. We had a pretty successful meeting on how we can better engage and even engage with more young people in the community, so that they make sure that they don't, if they somehow come into contact with law enforcement, that on the right track, not have something on the record. We met again this month with CCRP, Michael Romero, and Sam Tom to continue to talk about the implementation of CCRP. Michael Romero is the project manager, and he has been going out into the community and started some engagement. But we are still looking towards that program being up and running, because in 2021 there were funds taken from the police department for these types of programs. Yet still we're still responding to all the calls for service. So we're still waiting for programs like that to be up and running, so we can reduce our calls for service. I had a tour at GRIP, and we're looking at ways that we can additionally support our in-house community. And we participated most recently this weekend. Our PAL golf tournament is raising funds for the Community Action Act. Our PAL. That's all I have.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, I have a question.
Oscar?
Yeah, I have a question about the sideshow in Hilltop that, was that something that nearby cities were also affected by? Or was that something that Richmond sort of took the brunt of? Did other nearby cities also see impacts from that sideshow?
We did have reports that there was a sideshow going on in Hercules. Those people most likely came to the city of Richmond after that. There were shots fired from what I understand in Hercules, and there were the calls that we received initially were of a sideshow with smoke coming from the dealerships and shots fired. When we got there, we were met with over 50 people participating in a sideshow. We had to call for mutual aid because we did not have enough officers. So officers came from El Cerrito, San Pablo, and Contra Costa County Sheriff's Office to assist us with trying to get people out of the out of our city onto the freeway and out of the area. When people cleared, we were able to see the damage, which were to 2 of the dealerships at the Hilltop area. 9 vehicles were damaged. We had a police vehicle that was also damaged with beer bottles being thrown and cracking our windshield. Officers were having bottles thrown at them also.
Wow. All right.
Oscar, the other Oscar?
Yeah, the other Oscar. I had a question about, you mentioned the Racial Justice Act, and I didn't catch what exactly you were doing.
I was asked to speak at a class at UC Berkeley, and the topic overall was the Racial Justice Act, but the students in the class were able to ask me any questions that they had.
Thank you.
Marisol?
Thank you, Chief. I heard you say that the CCR, you've been meeting with Michael Romero from the CCRP program, and it's not up and running. So I wanted to know if you had any insight of why there was a delay.
The delay is in the process. My understanding is that they're still going through the meet and confer process for the positions, and so they aren't able to hire workers yet for that program.
Thank you. I have another question. You also mentioned, hopefully you imagined that there would be some calls that the CCRP could take on. What type of calls would you like the CCRP to take on?
Hopefully some of our lower level calls, maybe music calls, arguments between neighbors, types of things that don't include violence or anything like that. I think that's also part of the meet and confer process. So I don't want to assert any particular things. Those are just things that I could think of off the top of my head.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, I had another question.
Go ahead.
For the Racial Justice Act, I believe that there was a San Francisco Chronicle that named that RPD, because of the Racial Justice Act, we're tracking, many people may not know what the Racial Justice Act is, but there's tracking racial profiling, and it did show that RPD officers are racially profiling substantially higher than the statewide. I believe it was 3.2 higher times. I just wanted to see what the policy is on your end in ensuring that we're lowering racial profiling in Richmond.
So our policy is that we focus on, our car stops should be focused on those things that are primary collision factors, those things that cause accidents, because we do have a lot of accidents here in the city of Richmond. And so the policy is that our officers focus on those types of stops. Now, we've also been working for the last few years with the Center for Policing Equity so that we can get some recommendations from them on how we can make sure to reduce our disparities.
Follow-up, Jeff? I love that you're working with Center of Equity. I hope that maybe you can invite them to this commission as this body reviews police procedures and policies, and maybe we could better understand those policies from the Center of Equity and have a presentation in the future. So this body might be able to help in reducing, as it does look at racial discrimination in the scope.
Okay.
Any other questions? I have 2 questions. Earlier speakers during public forum mentioned something about clean record agreements and said that Richmond participates in that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
clean record agreements for officers who, I guess if they leave the force, you give them a clean record? That's what, there was some kind of.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Since I've been chief, I have not allowed any officer to leave our department without, if there's an investigation, we always finish that investigation, do a thorough investigation and have findings, whether that officer leaves on their own or not. At my time at tenure as chief, we have never let anybody leave without finishing an investigation and having findings.
Thank you. I have one other question. So Jerry, one of the things that we are allowed to do, or that our investigator is supposed to do, is review use of force reports from the department. And Jerry, of course, was in Canada, so he couldn't come to your you have monthly use of force review meetings?
I do have monthly use of force meetings.
Would our new investigator, if they were a local person, would they be allowed to attend those meetings by any chance?
I would get I would defer to the city attorney's office.
City attorney's office was the one that prevented Jerry from looking at the actual use of force reports.
I'm sorry?
What was it, the city attorney's office who prevented Jerry from looking at the actual use of force reports?
I don't know. I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. You have another question?
I'm so sorry, I forgot. I believe last meeting, you provided how many complaints there were against RPD officers. I didn't hear that this time.
I don't think I provided complaints. I think Jerry provided complaints last time.
But you do usually do a use of force report for
I
us.
do usually do a use of force, how many use of forces there are for the month. And I provided July and August last month. Because this meeting is falling on the 2nd, I don't yet have that data for this month, so I'll give it to you next month. It depends on when the meeting falls. The data is usually collected by the first week of the month, but it's the 2nd, so they haven't compiled all the data yet.
Thank you. Any other further questions? Any questions from the?
Can I just say one comment? I know this is my first time stepping in, but I think that, the question should be in response to what the material presented by each of the speakers.
That's not the way we've done it in the past.
You haven't? Okay. I mean, that would be my recommendation, but if that's not the way you guys have done it in the past, then we'll table that for now. But because I think you can get off into many, many topics here if it's not tied directly to the report being provided. But
do we have any speakers in the room?
You do. So Cordell Handler. Okay, go ahead, Cordell.
Is it 3 minutes or 2?
You have 2 minutes.
That was 3 minutes.
Starting now.
So, good evening, Chair Hegstrom, Commissioners. I am Cordell Handler, and I'm a member of the Park Plaza Neighborhood Council. So, thank you, Chief French, for that report. So, I will reiterate my comments that I said last month. The neighborhood councils and I have been working collaboratively back in 2013 to put 7-Eleven out of our community because of all the crimes that they have made this community more cohesive. Because at the time we have been trying to put pressure on them, like to clean up their act and maintain their property. Because twice I have called the police to report that people that are hanging in front of 7-Eleven is going to be a concern. Because for me, I can't even go inside of a business without getting hit up for money. That's one. And then also, that corridor along 23rd Street, I have seen, there has been a number of activities such as prostitution. So I do recall when there used to be a sting operation. And so I'm hoping that they bring those sting operations back because a lot of businesses like along that corridor has been getting a lot of concern, especially in front of Andy's Donuts. And then the final concern is that I had spoken with the owners of Palace Furniture, and their concerns was that people continue to drive to exceed the speed limit. I almost got hit twice on the corner, right outside Mr. Pizza Man and among other businesses. So I'm hoping that RPD will be making sure that there be presence along that corridor, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Cordell.
No problem.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
I know that there's a lot of frustration on.
Sorry, I think the way we're going to do it is when all of the public comments are done, you get to respond. So there may be one more, I'm not sure.
Okay, so if you're online and you have a public comment, please raise your hand. And we have one speaker. Chabi, go ahead, you'll have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much. Chief Bisa, I'm a big supporter of Richmond Police Department. I really appreciate what you do and your department does. I have one feedback for actually a couple of feedback for you. You know, you're already investing. I mean, the officers are already investing their time and effort, and this is a hard job being a police officer in Richmond. A lot of us in this meeting, like you know, our jobs are much easier than what your department and your team does. One thing I really want to recommend is, like, I believe in the book, like the law and all that. If somebody complains about a small thing, and when the officer goes to that site, I really want officers to give like a written warning, not citations, because I don't want nobody to get punished, right? Like I don't want to give nobody trouble. But I have experienced that a lot of officers are kind of hesitant in issuing a written warning, because this is how it's going to benefit, right? When there's a written warning, a lot of people here in Iron Triangle area, they think that there is no law, there's no order. But when they see something in written form, what happens, like, it's going to prevent them from making a bigger, incident or a crime or something, right? Like a bigger thing. So it's actually going to help them, but also it's going to help us because they're going to take it seriously. And I have a big shout out for Officer Wally on your team, and he actually resolved an issue. None of my neighbors were actually able to sleep on the weekdays and weeknights, and he was able to understand the municipal code that I was trying to explain him, and he got it and took 11:30 night. Very, very loud music. It's not only about the music, but that house had issue to the oil change and lead and all that, and also building a unit, and I'm working.
Okay, if there's no more comments, Chief, you can respond to anything you would like.
Sure. So I want to respond to Mr. Hindler in regards to the operations that we used to do on 23rd Street when we had much more staff, and we were able to have much more impact on the issue of human trafficking and sex trafficking on the corridor because we did regular operations. A couple things have changed. One, we don't have the staff to do it, and so when we do it, we try to do operations at least once a month, and it's on overtime. But the second thing that changed is Governor Newsom last year signed a law that said that we can no longer contact women who we know are loitering with the intent to prostitute on the 23rd or anywhere. We can no longer contact them just for loitering with intent. So now, I think every one of us can identify somebody that's out there loitering with the intent, but in order to actually contact them, we have to believe that they're juveniles, and then we could contact them because that's more of rescuing them. Or two, we have to actually do surveillance and catch them in the act of doing business. And so I know that frustrates a lot of people because we all know who's out there doing what, but just the resources we have to do those operations, it takes a lot of resources, takes a lot of time and effort. And so that's very frustrating for us. It's very frustrating for the community, but we still continue to do our best. We also do not have a traffic unit anymore. So when you talk about having officers focus on the speeding, that's all up to our patrol officers who are responsible for beats. So in between their calls for service, when they're responding to, the 911 calls or even just, non-emergency calls, then that's the time that they actually do traffic enforcement also. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of calls for service. And so they're not always able to do traffic enforcement. I'm hoping that one day we'll be able to bring back a traffic unit. That's my as soon as we get enough staff, like that's the number one team that will go up. And in terms of Mr., I think it's Chabi, and I apologize if I said that wrong. I know that there's been a lot of complaints around, RMC sections, and I know that the Shannon's there, one of the city attorneys is there, but one of the challenges is and the reason why we have not been enforcing a lot of the Richmond municipal codes is because we don't currently have a city prosecutor to follow up with those things. So an officer can issue a citation, but it doesn't go anywhere because we don't currently have a prosecutor. We are in the talks now. We actually have a meeting, or we just had a meeting this week to talk about how we can get a prosecutor on board to follow up with those RMC sections so that we can enforce those sections. And that's the music complaints and things like that. The second part of that is there was something else that was brought up. I'm glad Officer Wally was able to have some impact on the problem that you had. He's a fairly new officer. He was born and raised in Richmond, so we're proud to have him on the force. And I forgot my last point, so I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. The last point, he brought up written warning. So we don't have a written warning system. We have citations. So if we issue a citation, it's enforcement action. We don't have a system for just written warnings. It's something that we've considered more in the parking enforcement realm, but we have not considered that in terms of enforcement, but it's something we could probably look into.
Thank you. So now we move on to report by the Police Officers Association, Ben Terrio.
Let's see who accepts the motion to panel this. Okay, here he goes.
Go ahead, Ben.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right. Good evening, Commission. Ben Terrio, President of the Richmond Police Officers Association. I want to start out by addressing the Commission's decision to sustain, excessive force on the McDonald's shooting. Extremely perplexing and disappointing that somehow that you would come to clear and convincing evidence, or if you understand that standard, that you would come to that conclusion with someone holding a gun in their hand and think that there are not repercussions for that, or and to how officers think, or the thought process that goes through people's minds. Also, for, I guess, recruiting and retention, because there's that, but also just for the fact that you would judge that to be excessive. I just don't really, it's hard to grasp. That's what I thought coming out of the meeting a month ago. And then, to read Jerry Threet's email, hugely disappointing. Hugely disappointed in the body and for what is, what's being alleged. As the POA president, I want to emphasize that, the importance of the police commission in serving the community of Richmond, because I think the commission plays a vital role ensuring that, Richmond police officers are held accountable and that they foster trust between the police and the public. That shapes, and then things that shaping policies, things like that. However, for the commission to be effective and maintain its integrity, it cannot function as some quasi-political kangaroo court. And unfortunately, that's what it looks like. And that's what it seems, that there's a lack of impartiality, that there's not some sort of coordination between folks on the commission, activists who show up. It's pretty obvious. And if people are operating with predetermined outcomes driven by political agendas rather than fairness and due process, then the commission just becomes a vehicle for political maneuvering and it risks losing credibility, respect necessary to carry out its responsibilities. And decisions that are made in such an environment are not based on facts or evidence, but just preconceived notions or pressure from vocal factions isn't what this body is supposed to be, and undermines the commission's integrity, but also the trust of both, law enforcement professionals in the Richmond Police Department and the community. I personally am a fan of, police oversight, but I've run a campaign countywide, speaking out for that, but not one that is a political kangaroo court. Police officers, like other public servants, deserve to be treated fairly, and it does not appear like this process is fair and that the due process works. So I'm going to leave it at that. The work is important, but the impartiality and making sure that things don't become politicized or erode trust and transparency, things like that, that it's supposed to build, extremely important. And I don't think that's happening. And I have a lot of concerns, disappointed with that outcome, and then blown up beyond belief, disappointed after the letter from Mr. 3. And I want to very much fix that, and I'm going to work with the city to do so, and to work with whomever to make that happen. That's what the POA is going to do. Thanks.
Thank you. And any comments or questions for Ben Terrio?
I do.
Do you
didn't
just
sign up for that?
do a speaker's card?
I didn't know I had to make out one for each thing.
Well, let me, Andre, do you have something?
Yeah. I was just thinking and kind of concerned because, I've been around here for 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden, you get all these people to come here. And I was kind of just curious why now all these people show up and I was wondering if the commission had anything to do with that. Having, coercing people to show up and say whatever they gonna say, And then another thing is, I think before somebody, actually shoots somebody or kills somebody, there should be, other ways, because even in the meeting last month, the chief said that a certain situation went down and they sent in, I guess these robots or sent in did something else, you know what I'm saying? So, that's the way I feel about it, is that, before there's a shooting, when someone is, gets shot and killed, there's always could be something else that probably could be done.
Okay. We have any other comments? All right.
Any other questions?
Any other questions, comments? Okay, we have one public speaker.
Yes, in person. And then if you're online, please use the raise your hand feature. We'll be calling you after this speaker. Okay, Rick Perez, go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
Hi. Hello, Ben. I believe, like our law says, you're innocent until proven guilty. But some of your statements make me think that you think the people who make these complaints are all liars. And, some of it can be exaggerated, I'm sure. I know there's a lot of good officers out there. I meet a lot of them all the time. But, I'm not smart enough to make up this saying, but the saying goes, there's one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. And you know where I'm coming from with that. So, I think that all these, any complaint that comes out should be considered a valid complaint and should be investigated. So, I appreciate your good work, Ben, but I also appreciate these guys looking into allegations of bad police officers. We have the Coeasy incident that there's a video there. It's plain as day. I think that you guys should be doing, the police department themselves, you as the representative of the Police Officers Association should be doing something about that. He's making you guys look bad. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any,
Okay, so we have one public speaker online. Chabi, go ahead, Chabi. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna be careful with my time. The thing is, like, why did that person leave when he could have sent all that emails before he left? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, like, when you really live in an area like Iron Triangle, then you can see what is happening. I have been personally threatened like multiple times. I spent an hour, more than an hour, cleaning the public yard yesterday, and the sun until like from 10 to 11, right? Oscar knows that I've been very active on Facebook for Richmond and all that. So let's just be constructive, and I don't know if anybody, I think Claudia is there from RPA. I just have a question, like why was the police force defunded? Why they don't have enough fund? Why parking department only has 2 officers? And also, if Chief Bisa is there, I also want to say thank you to Captain Stonebreaker. He also helped in our community a lot. He called me personally, Captain Willie and Captain I don't remember his name. He starts from he was the training officer for Captain Willie. Because of that, we neighbors, like the whole blocks, more than a block, we can sleep in the night. So that's the only thing I want to share.
So in the future, sir, you want to provide public comment on the item that's listed on the agenda, and right now we're talking about a report from the Richmond Police Officers Association. So you want to limit your comments to that topic.
Okay, no more speakers.
okay, did you have any response, Ben, or are you done?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and I do not see a representative from the Police Managers Association. So now we will move on to old business and receive a report from the Buyers Group on the recruitment for the confidential investigative and appeals officer. So I'm not sure who is going to talk. Maybe you should allow all of them.
Yeah, I'm putting them in.
I saw Lisa's hand.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Can you guys hear me okay? You can hear me okay? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We can hear
Thank
you. I think we were frozen for a quick second, but yeah.
Okay. Well, good evening, Madam Chair Beckstrom and Commissioners. It's nice to see everybody again.
Good evening. This is Christine, also a colleague of Brett Byers, and
Yep.
I share her sentiment. It's great to see you all this evening.
Yes. So our report out is going to be very quick. As you all know, we started speaking with the commissioners back in July and throughout August to really get a good understanding of the office of the confidential investigative and appeals officer. We were focused on understanding, strengths, weaknesses, priorities, vision, which translates for us into understanding the type and the qualities of the person that we need to be looking for in this role, and to help source candidates on behalf of the Department of Human Resources to bring forward. In addition to speaking with all of you, we also met with Chief French, RPOA, and the Accountability Office, Office of Professional Accountability appropriately, as well as we've talked to the majority of the city council. So we have a few city council members who, you all know that they were on recess for a while, but there are a few of them that we still do need to have a conversation with. And we are at the point right now in working with Sharon to update the job description. So you all know that there is a formal job description for this position. It does require some updating before we can actually move forward with identifying or posting the position and sourcing candidates for the role. So at this point, that's where we are in the search. And Christine, if there's anything else that you want to add, feel free.
Right. I do want to mention that in addition to all of the people that Brett mentioned, we also had a chance to spend some time with Jerry so that
Yes.
we have a good sense of the ways in which he conducted business in the formal capacity. And our all of our work is now sort of just waiting to be informed by the best thinking and decisions of the city council on how we move forward.
Okay, thank you. Is that it for now? I will see if anybody has.
Sharon, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
Or
Yes,
that
greetings, Chair Hedstrom and the Police Commission, Sharon Taylor, Human Resources Director. Thank you for having us come to the meeting this evening. And thank you for wanting to find out the status of the recruitment. As Ms. Byers stated, she's working very hard along with her colleague Christine to gather the information necessary to conduct a thorough recruitment. As you know, based on your meetings with both professionals, that they are familiar with this role. They placed the police commissioner investigator in Berkeley. And so I feel very confident that they'll be able to find a qualified candidate, as I know that one of the commissioners stated that that was a concern. So currently with Mr. Threet leaving, that has allowed us the opportunity to review the job description to ensure that it comports with the role that you will need to support the commission. The job description was outdated, so there is a need for us to take out some of the outdated information as well as incorporate other aspects. That review will be informed by Ms. Byers and Ms. Boulware because they do have experience with other agencies in doing this recruitment. And we will be submitting the job description draft to the council. But of course, we will want the same amount of feedback that the Byers Group have requested from you on the recruitment on the job description as well. So we will be re-engaging with the commission, with the unions, and with all other stakeholders to ensure that the job description comports with the need of the commission. So as we had shared with you previously, our goal, a typical recruitment does take about 3 to 6 months. When it is a recruitment such as this, in which it is highly specialized, it can take a little bit longer. And now, since there are some adjustments being made, I just want you to be mindful that the timeline may change. But again, we're still pressing forward. The Byers Group is still needing to meet with a couple of more stakeholders. And in the meantime, I'm working on drafting a job description for review. So again, thank you for your time, and we're available for any questions if you have any.
Does anyone have questions? Dan?
I was just, so I understand that the timeline may adjust from 3 to 6 months based on current events, but I'm actually not 100% sure whether you meant that was going to adjust to the shorter direction or the longer direction. So I was wondering if you could give me some idea of the timeline for next steps and for the conclusions of this process.
Yes, so I can share my part, and then Ms. Byers can give you any information that she may have regarding where she is in the process. But with the job description review, that can take not very long, but considering we are requesting input from stakeholders, that needs to be established before we can even announce the position. We have to have the job description solidified so that when we go out for the recruitment, the candidates will know what the expectations are. They'll be able to see what the minimum qualifications are. And so, you know, that is something that is a top priority for me at this point, because I don't want the job description to be a delay, but it is a step that we hadn't factored into the original timeline. So typically a job description development can take about a month, and that is ensuring that we have adequate feedback and maybe go through several iterations before we come to the finalized job description. And then also the city council, if there is a salary change, will need to approve the salary. So that is also dependent on when we can get on the agenda, the time frame of preparing the staff report and things like that. So we will certainly keep you all informed, particularly the liaison, Vice Mayor Jimenez. Will keep her informed, as well as the ad hoc committee that was formed at the beginning of the process.
Yeah. And I don't have much more to add to Sharon. You know, it is an internal administrative task to update the job description. And so we're in alignment with her process and are helping her to inform, you know, what needs to go into that description before it goes to the council.
I have a question.
Yes.
So what is the contingency plan in terms of that missing inspector or what are they called? Investigator? What is the contingency plan around that? And I would say that what I would suggest as part of contingency is that if there's time limits to these investigations, I believe it's 120 days or something like that. So if there is, then that should be extended, because it's not the people's fault that are making the complaints around excessive force or whatever. It's the city's or whatever, who's ever burden on that.
That is something that I don't have purview over, extending the time frame for looking at the investigations. What I can share is that I haven't received council direction to find a contractual investigator, but that is certainly an option. And that may be something that I can confer with Vice Mayor Jimenez on, if that is the direction that she would like for me to pursue.
So if you don't mind, the current ordinance, it actually says it's 120 days, but we can extend it if there's good reason. The commission can extend it. So I think this is the perfect example where we would, you know, be able to extend it if needed. Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, sorry, Carmen.
Hi, so I know you guys mentioned that you guys still have to meet with some stakeholders, but you also mentioned that you haven't been able to meet with all city council members. So I was wondering, how many more council members do you guys have to meet with?
There's a total of 3.
But the other overall goal is to meet with each council member.
Yeah, and we have 3 additional council members that we need to meet with.
Thank you.
If there's good reason, the commission.
I just want to make sure I understood what contractual investigator means. That would be somebody we could hire like on a month-to-month basis or something like that before this whole process.
Perfect example where we would,
permanent
you know,
job description,
be able to
placing
extend
a
it.
person permanently in the role. Like we could hire somebody temporarily. Is that what the contractual investigator is?
I would need to receive direction from council regarding the plan for the investigations. And I have not received that yet.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for the report. I just wanted to know, once the job description is, you said that there would be another round of stakeholder engagement. Would that be with the commissioners?
It would be with the ad hoc committee that was formed at the beginning of the process.
That's right.
Just because I'm new, I don't know who's on that ad hoc committee.
Sorry, you want it?
Who? Who's on the ad hoc committee?
I'm one of the people, I believe.
Oh, no, maybe you're not.
Hedstrom is on there.
Mhm.
Yeah. Carmen's on. And Dan, exactly. Okay, thank you. The other question I wanted to know is, I don't think in the ordinance there's anything that prohibits, the commissioners being part of the hiring of the investigator. And I wanted to see, in the past, has the commission been part of the hiring panel of an investigator?
So the city council are the hiring managers for this position. So the commission will be, of course, asked to provide input, but as far as the hiring decision, that is solely the under the city council's purview.
So does that mean that we could be involved in the interviews? Or you said that we would give insight, I'm trying to understand what that means.
Yes, the city council would need to give me the direction. But it is my understanding that they are solely they have the responsibility and currently are holding the right to hire the investigator.
That's right.
Vice Mayor Jimenez?
Yeah, thank you, Sharon, and everybody here for working another long night. Thank you. I feel like we give the direction of commissioners to be in the hiring panel, doing the interviews. So I feel like there is already an ad hoc committee, and it could be that they can be part of that. I believe we discussed that. And in terms of the contractual investigator, I will be happy, like, if this is something that is brought to the council in closed session, I feel like we should have it as next steps. I haven't heard that was a possibility, so that could be something that we can discuss in closed session, because we hear you that one of the fears is that this process is going to be longer, and meanwhile the complaints are going to be piled up, and the gap, we don't want it. So yeah, so let's bring that to the city council and see how the city council report on it.
Any other comments or questions? Oscar?
Yeah, no, I think I shared with you that in the past, I think we had a 2.5-year gap with an investigator, and I think we had 1 or 2 finalists drop out at the 11th hour. They, I guess, couldn't agree or didn't want to agree to some of the terms of hiring. So I guess my recommendation or my point is we should try to have as many backups, because starting the process or not, if someone drops out at the 11th hour, it could really set back the process. So something to think about. And the city council, I recall one finalist dropping out because the city council took too long to get back to them, and they found another job. So yeah.
That happens in the recruitment world for sure. I think myself and the buyers group are very familiar.
Yes.
So time is of the essence. Once we get the recruitment started, our goal is to remain engaged, even if the city council may have other, I guess, matters going on, or there may be some time lapse. It is also the responsibility of us, human resources, to maintain communications with our top candidates. So we will do our best to not lose anyone along the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I was just wondering, have you
because
talked to everybody on the commission already?
it could really set back the process.
We have.
To think about.
So I just wanted to bring up, for
Dropping out because the city council took too long.
20-day limit was talked about just now, and the RMC section 3.5 3 talks about the time limit, and it's regarding when they can file the complaint, not the investigation time limit. So I just wanted to put that out there since you guys just talked about that. And it might be really good for everybody to kind of get familiar with
There is also a limit, it's not the 180 days, there is.
120, he said.
120, I mean, it's not the 120 days, there is also a limit on how far out you can wait after something happens to prosecute, to investigate the case. So there will be some cases that we will not be able to investigate because their time limit will have come past already. We don't have an investigator right now.
No, I think we can investigate, but we just won't be able to recommend.
No, I don't think we can even investigate after a certain statute. I mean,
The statute of limitation.
yeah, there's a statute of limitations.
I was just addressing the 120 that,
That's right, that's something different.
That there is an statute of limitation.
Yes.
Any
Any other comments or questions for the buyer's group?
We do have a public comment, Cordell Hemler, and then online, if you have a comment, please raise your hand now, we'll call you after.
Me.
And please focus your comments and questions on the topic.
Okay, Cordell, you have 2 minutes.
So I'm gonna keep it short because it's already 9 o'clock. So good evening, Chair Ekstrom, commissioners. Thank you, Sharon and the buyers group for this report. So I'm very familiar with the organization, and my only question is like, how many groups have you worked with to fill these positions? Like in other cities. So I'm really excited about this process. So I'm hoping that you engage more people for this particular position because it's a much needed position. So that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Cordell. If you could get the first online speaker. Any other comments or questions?
So, Shannon, did you want to extend the meeting? I know you talked about that.
Well, I think this is.
We have to finish, can we finish this topic, or you want to do it before 9 o'clock?
Following the order, it's in one on the agenda, it says the adjournment's supposed to be at 9, so are we supposed to extend the
So
meeting?
you could make a motion to extend for a specific period of time.
So I was gonna bring that up, but if you want to bring it up now, then we can decide how many, if we want to continue and how many items we want to continue. And I will just tell you that all of the items under 10X should be fairly fast.
I'm really excited
Make
about
a motion to extend the meeting until 9:30? Is that?
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays?
Nay.
Passes unanimously. The meeting ends.
I was a nay.
Oh, you're a nay? Sorry, I didn't get you. I didn't do that.
So for the record, Rachel,
Well, I think also
We have to finish, our legal counsel today is
One
not
on the
committed
agenda, it says
to,
the adjournment's supposed to.
yes, we already established that at the beginning of
Oh,
the
we
meeting.
did, okay,
Yes.
sorry.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to Lisa Johnson. Lisa, you will have 2 minutes to speak. Your time starts now.
Good evening. I was wondering if Ms. Byers and Ms. Taylor could comment on how they plan to find a quality investigator that is going to be fair, unbiased, and takes their ethics and rules and responsibilities serious as an investigator. Given Mr. Threet's resignation and the alleged complaints born within it based on the vote last month. And if the city attorney's office isn't able to first address all of the serious allegations raised in that resignation letter, as well as by members of the public sense, and put appropriate guardrails in place, how are you going to get somebody to commit? And let alone have backups in place, as some of the commissioners spoke to. I mean, this is a critical position for the CPRC. It needs to be filled pretty quickly, but it also needs to be filled with somebody who's going to demonstrate the characteristics that they need to demonstrate. And I also want to support having a different ad hoc committee. 2 of the commissioners were handpicked by Councilmember Jimenez, and they were 2 of the commissioners that I brought up issues with based on campaign contributions and payments. So it needs to be opened up to the entire commission to be a part of this process to make it fair and unbiased. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Okay, the next speaker is Chavi. Chavi, you have 2 minutes.
Your time starts now.
Yeah, so I'm fully supportive of what you guys are doing here. I'm a fellow resident. I pay taxes. I vote, right? So just because I have different opinion, it's kind of like you know, a little bit disrespectful to kind of mention like a couple of times that I think you did that keep it on the topic or something, because my priorities are different than yours. So I'm gonna ask you a question, which is like, you know, if the city is funding for this role, what about city funding a different role, a different type of investigator to find out that what actually the citizens, what the police department needs to get their job done, about their mental health. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Did you have any
We're not,
responses?
I have it on mute. Go ahead to minimize the feedback. Go ahead now.
Thank you. Vice-Group, do you have, or Sharon, do you have any response, any more further comments or not?
We have no further comments.
Okay,
We just
thank you.
appreciate being able to give you a report out tonight.
Thank you very much. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
your time and
Absolutely.
effort.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for the
Okay.
opportunity.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good
Bye.
evening.
Okay, so the next item is update on the status of the commissioner's proposed revisions to chapter 3.14. This was things that we passed, I believe, over a year ago now, and it needs to go for a meet and confer with RPOA. I was going to be part of that. I got an email that says, I talked to Jack Hughes last night, and I wanted to let you know that for now, Jack is going to send the document you prepared to RPOA's attorney, and we won't need you to join in a meeting with RPOA. I'll let you know if that changes for any reason. Thanks again for all of your assistance. So, not much of an update. There's no date signed. We filled out that, we created this document several months ago, and they should have gotten it already, so I don't know what the holdup is, but that's the update that I have right now. And the person's name is Beth Arnice, right? That's what you say it? So that's that, yeah.
I'm sorry, the agenda report was extremely vague, and so what specific amendment?
Okay, so this was, Rachel, do you want to describe what the part that we voted, these are things that we voted for previously. So
As
you
new
weren't here.
commissioners, you would think that you might put some context and say something a little bit more, right? Thank you.
This was the voted upon proposed revision that there would be automatic review, that portion of the municipal code that currently has a certain number of hours of hospitalization. So that portion, the proposal that we voted on was to expand the automatic review to a definition of serious bodily injury that we had voted on, as well as a shorter hospitalization period.
And there was a second change that we made, which was more of an extended, so I don't know what the holdup is, so that's the update. Years ago, when we updated the scope, we increased the scope of the commission, there was a part that should have been changed. We went through and changed all the parts that referred to it in the ordinance, but we missed a part that needed to, and it just needed a little changing, so it was more of an administrative update. But actually needed to go to RPOA because it would increase the number of cases that we could get as appeals from decisions made by
that portion of the municipal code.
Professional office of office. What is it?
Office of Professional Accountability.
That's it. Office of Professional Accountability. All right. Any other questions on that, Dan?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, if I'm understanding the status report right now is that these changes are being delayed or are on hold because of a delay in the process of the
I've been already, so I don't know. what the-
negotiation with the police union. Is that
Yes.
correct?
It requires what's called a meet and confer, and I thought we were ready to do it in August, and now we're heading into October and it hasn't happened. I don't know what the delay for that is, and I
Okay.
guess I was going to be a part of that, and now I'm not, so I just don't know.
Well, so like when you have a meet and confer, there's a legal requirement on both parties to be acting in good faith, to like come to the table and try to reach an agreement. And part of that is coming to the table. And so like, I don't know if this is a delay, like just because people's calendars aren't matching up, but if it's one party is delaying even meeting, then that's a failure of that party to actually live up to their legal obligation.
It sounds to me like it may be the legal team from the city, and the union person from, negotiator from the city that is holding these up. I don't know the answer to that.
I think that's somewhat speculative, Chair, but I can get an update and
The
figure out
status report right now is
what's
that,
going on in terms of the delays on the meet and confer process. I don't know the specifics,
okay, thank you.
but I can get an update and relay that either to Vice Mayor Jimenez or the Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that would be, thank you.
Okay, so we don't, any more comments or questions on that item?
You know what, I just have one. It's 3.54.020B.
Okay, that's not this item. That's not the one we're talking about.
Which one?
This is a delay, like just because people's calendars aren't matching up, but if it's one party,
B.
Okay.
All right.
We don't have any public speakers in person, and if you want to make a comment online, please raise your hand. No hands raised.
Okay, we move on to the update of the CPRC flyer revisions, logo creation. So last time somebody suggested that we go with Left Side Printing and Diego. However, Diego is no longer, I think he still owns it, but he's a high school teacher now. So there is, and we did ask him before to do things, and he just, we did have them print our banner. But we need a logo design, and so Shawnee thought there's a guy in the city, works for the city, Abdul, who I've seen his work before and like him. So we reached out to him, and he said he would do it, but he hasn't gotten back to me after I sent him the more of what we wanted. So I'll reach out to him again, and hopefully we'll get some designs for the next meeting for you guys to look at and decide what you like. Moving, any comments or questions on that?
So we have public comments. Cordell Handler.
Oh, did I?
I'm
I'm trying to remember.
If you don't want to
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna keep it short again. So, good evening again, Chair Heckstrom, Commissioner. So, I do agree with Chair Heckstrom about having Abdul, look at creating a logo. So that was my second choice. I didn't even think about that because I'm thinking Left Side Printing would have been perfect, but having someone in the city to do the logos, I think that's fantastic. So if you can put it on the agenda for next month, that way we all can take a look at the logo, and that's it.
Thank you, Cordell.
No problem.
And we have a speaker online. We have Chavi. I'm going to go ahead and.
You have 2
Yeah,
minutes.
I'm
Sean.
sorry. I raised my hand because I never got the answer for my question, which was, I support what you guys are doing, but also at the same time, because it's we all pay taxes. That's what the city gets. And what about hiring an investigator to find out what exactly the Richmond PD needs to keep these cities safe? On the other side, okay, it's the opposite topic, but that's my need. And you are the representative there. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you have to keep your comment limited to what is on the agenda. Right now, we are on the update of the CPRC revision and logo creation. So if you have any comments about that, you can continue, but otherwise, we're gonna go ahead and remove the permission to talk.
Yeah, I mean, hire somebody good. I mean, it needs to be fair. If things are happening on the other side, like if people are suffering because of the police
We're gonna-
activities and stuff.
We're gonna end it with talking about the CPRC logo, okay? So we're gonna
Oh.
move on. Thank
Okay.
Any other comments? Nope, moving on. Update on the electronic submission of complaint forms, Shani?
Okay, so the update for that is, from what I understand that you guys want to happen, I need to meet with the clerk's office to see if that can happen. My understanding is that you guys want them to be able to just go on and fill out a form online rather than actually fill out a form and upload it to online. I don't think that we have anything else that's coming through in that way. The city does have the ability to put forms, like we have a form center, but it looks really bad on the back end, and I know that because we were using it for some other things. So I need to check with the clerk's office, bottom line, to see one, if they'd be open to it, and then two, what does that look like on the back end, so that if someone does submit a form, when I send that information over to you all, what would it look like? Because our back end isn't able to be manipulated the same way as the form that you currently see. So I'll provide another update at the next meeting. And yeah, that's the only thing, yeah.
Will that include a QR code?
It could, I mean, we have the ability to do QR codes, so.
Because I think that those are, I do a lot of outreach and those are very helpful.
Okay.
Okay. No more questions or comments on this item or public comment?
We have a hand raised online. I want them to be able to just go on and, Chavi, we're gonna go ahead and allow you to talk. This is about the electronic submission of complaint forms.
Sure.
have
So here's the thing. It needs to be as simple as it can be. And I talked to Oscar today about it. We chat sometimes, not about the logo or anything, but when we post anything on social media or anywhere, it needs to be very, very simple. A lot of us, we understand all the techie and stuff, but to increase the participants in meetings like this, we need to understand, their level of education, their level of technology and stuff like that. We need to make the logo very friendly, very approachable, very hopeful.
We're talking, Chavi, we're talking about the electronic submission of a complaint form. We're past the logo now, I'm sorry.
Oh, actually, I used that today. I used it twice actually. From the Richmond app, right? City app.
Okay. No more.
Yeah, we can't answer, we can't answer questions. You can just continue with your comment you have.
Another 40 seconds.
Talking about the Richmond, the city app, I used it today, but yeah, I mean, it needs to be very, very simple. And we also need to put it on social media so people know that there is a way to do that. There are over 6,000 members on the Facebook group for the city of Richmond. I think that's the way to do it. Just make it simple, include everyone, Be inclusive. Can you hear me?
All right, thank you.
We're having problems with Zoom. It's doing its own thing right now. Oh, come on. You can't even do anything. I can't take off visibility at all. Okay. They can't see us, but maybe they can hear us.
Is that it?
I don't, the computer's freezing.
Should we go on to the next item?
All right, next item is new business. We are discussion regarding a recommendation to the city council to amend chapter 3.54020B 1.3 of the Richmond Municipal Code, RMC, require commissioner training within 90 days of appointment.
Questions? You can just. We do, but you know what? I hope it will. I don't know what's happening with computers. Yeah, go ahead and start and I'll try to see if I can get it up.
Okay, great. In your agenda packet, you will have all the information that is needed for this. To give context, I think it's extremely important for all commissioners, new, old, that there is adequate training. So this specifically is from, precedent is from Santa Ana, looking at their ordinance that requires all commissioners to receive training within 90 days of their appointment. This would help ensure that we are effective, that we are consistent, that we are unbiased, and equitable. And so this training, oh, awesome, thank you.
I hope they can see it, but.
Okay, thank you. Can we go to the next slide? I don't know if there's, oh, there's information to the city council. Okay. So this is already part of the agenda, but it is an issue that there has been a lack of training from all commissioners, and without adequate training, we cannot be effective. That's it, and I think all of us agree that we want to be an effective commission. Next slide.
Yeah, go ahead and start.
I'm sorry, you have the video off? Is that mean that the Zoom?
Well, it's just on screen share, but the video, there's a problem. There's some kind of technical thing, it won't.
I am afraid that maybe because the videos of people on Zoom won't.
That requires.
They should be able to see, because I'm screen sharing and it looks like the screen sharing is going in, but let me,
and equitable.
let me.
Someone log in and.
Yeah, that's what
I can email Sharon to see if she can.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
I mean, yeah. Something happened to the house. They just went off and I can't, it won't let me turn it back
Oh, these
on
things.
at all.
No, we got their lights are off now.
Can you just?
Yeah, I don't know what happened, they just crapped out.
Okay, I just got a report from Lisa Johnson that she can see it. I texted her a text.
Okay.
Yes, please. Thank you. Okay, great. And so, pretty simple, the proposal is to increase the amount of training. Other cities, commissions actually already have this. Oakland, they focus on department procedures, police officer misconduct, conflict resolution, and national standards. They also look at best practices for conducting investigations and even legal rights. Berkeley focuses on the obligations for constitutional rights and procedures, evidence, and PO is the police officer's bill of rights, and department procedures. And so I know the slide is, we changed this since this is only a discussion item. And so we will not be voting on this tonight, but this was an opportunity for us to have a conversation around what types of training would be important to include in a mandate. And I hope that this would be part of a larger effort for us to reform the Community Police Review Commission to meet the standards of other cities and jurisdictions, to reflect statewide best practices. And I think this is also really in alignment with the values of RPD, which include integrity, professionalism, service, leadership, and respect. And so, can we go to the next slide? Beautiful. So specifically Santa Ana, this is their ordinance. They're focusing on receiving training, and this is all in your agenda packet. So you can read very explicitly the types of training, but the procedures, some of it, evidence, and
Yeah, we didn't get that.
and so I know the slide.
It's on the, mine has it on the back.
No, but I thought you alluded to the Santa Ana being in the packet.
The
No?
Santa Ana, this directly, this language was.
Oh, the
directly from
language,
Santa
it-
Ana
Ah,
ordinance,
okay.
Section 2-663.
So those three bullets at the bottom are these 1, 2, 3 here at the bottom of our page.
Absolutely,
Okay.
that is directly cited from Santa Ana ordinance 2-663. And so, to summarize, some of this you'll see is around policies, practices, and procedures, with the values. Also around authorized uses of force, authorized uses of different devices, handcuffing, restraints, detention and arrest of people, search and seizures, and the department's focus of de-escalation tactics, which I know has been brought up before, vehicle pursuits and other training, and this is all in your agenda. I'm in, the second part, B2, is that this would be outside of the city, and some of it would be an independent third party, such as NACOL, and so I know the slide.
Mine has it on
No, but I thought you alluded to,
And then the final could be that we attend training sessions sponsored by the National Association, which I know some of us do.
okay.
Section 2-66 and have in the past. This would require all of us to do that, and so it's not limited to one or two parts, but everybody is doing that. Is the outside training Santa Ana ordinance. Because we only have 5 more minutes, my hope is that I open this up to you is around policy, practices, and procedures. What might be missing also from this, and so that we can have a discussion on what else could be included as I bring it back in November. This was also recommended after a meeting with the city attorney, Dave Alsheimer, specifically on this recommendation. So that was his recommendation to discuss. Have some of the very experienced year people tell us what you would like, and all of the new people that are working, such as what you able to see as the national institution oversight body.
Are we ready for questions? Questions?
I had some comments.
Okay, go ahead.
So we received training in August. That's usually the purpose of the August meeting, is for us to, we usually spend a day actually. This year we weren't able to do it because we canceled our July meeting and held it in August. But we normally have a whole day of training in August. And, you know, I think it's important to have this training, but I also don't think you need an ordinance change. And I think we've heard how cumbersome that process is. So I would recommend you just say you want this training and not worry about the ordinance change. I think that, and so then that becomes a question about budget. The city didn't approve attendance of NACOL this year. And so the city seems to be an issue often, either from budgeting or approvals in trainings. So I think that's been the real barrier actually. So I'm all for the training, but I don't think you need an ordinance change to get what you want.
Question, half comment. So based on what you said, the part about the who does the actual training, is that different than what you mentioned, NACOL or whatever that body is? Are they in the independent type of trainers, or because I also have heard or understood that, like for example, when police are getting trained, there's a questionable bias of who's the trainers, because then they're getting trained for bad practices that they continue on, and it just continues that cycle. So that's the question that I have, and then I'm sorry, that's the comment, and then the question that I have was, what does it mean for current members, like the current members that have been here, or is it like somebody like me, and I don't know if anybody else is new?
You want this training and not worry. I just don't think you ever stop being trained, I guess is really my point. Because things are always changing. Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to say that.
Did you have an answer?
Question about budget.
The answer is that it would be independent on the August meeting.
And so the city seems to be an issue often.
So it was not independent.
In trainings. So I think that's been the real barrier actually.
Third party.
So,
somebody in
I-
trouble.
so-
Is the sound on for
The
this?
sound is on, Carol, we're fine.
I got a text that it wasn't.
You guys now hearing me?
It's
Okay,
possible.
she said it's back on, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you. So that was the trainer, I think that was part of the question. And then this would be a requirement for all, commissioners, because it would be a new statute,
I heard
new
or
ordinance.
understood that
I think to respond to Foster, am I allowed to, or, okay. I think it's really critical that we become up to par with other jurisdictions where this is clearly written in this ordinance, because there's a difference between a policy and a practice, and this is something that other ordinances, or other cities are actually using this.
They're always changing.
Oscar,
Yeah, sorry, I just.
And Oakland and Santa Ana, and there's a lot of other cities that require it. I just chose a couple of them. It is that it would be independent on, that was a practice, I believe. You generally have a practice, but it is not a mandate, and this changes it.
Dan?
Yeah, and just in answer to Commissioner Flores' question about NACOL, and anybody else who wonders.
So-
So NACOL is the National Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, which is basically, it's a nationwide organization of people from commissions like this. So and they provide, there's a conference every year, and they have regional workshops and things like that. So they have trainers and workshops and resources that I would imagine they could provide trainings like this.
So Chair, it's 9:30. Do you want to make a motion to extend it for a specific period of time? And then after that, I've got one comment.
I can waive this other jurisdiction, where this is clearly written in 10 minutes. Okay. Between a policy and a practice, I would extend it to finish this item.
Okay, let's extend it to finish the item. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? All right.
So the one thing I was going to comment on is that if you do want this to apply to all commissioners, all current commissioners, I think they just need to have a modification to the proposed amendments.
In answer to Commissioner
Because
Flores'
right now it
question
says
about
no later than 90
NACOL,
days after
anybody-
appointment. So you can tweak it. I'm happy to work with you on that, just to make sure it's included, for all incumbents as well.
Nationwide organization.
Commissioners, something like that.
So I have a comment, and that is, I think it's a really great idea, but I think that this kinds of classes, they take somebody to make the material, somebody to teach the class, somebody to do all of that. That
That we
costs
can-
money and takes
where they- I
time.
would imagine.
Most of it on the first paragraph that I see looks like something that might be done by the police department. I don't know if our police department has the resources to give us this kind of training. They do have a community safety academy, which several, well, I don't know, did you ever do that? I know I did the community safety academy where you get a lot of training on things, but it's not exactly the same as this. There's some of it, but not all of it. So, I think that's something that needs to be worked out before we put it in our ordinance. We need to know where the money's coming from and who's going to do the training. It just
Aye.
seems kind of unfocused, it's too broad. I don't know, how am I gonna figure out what kind of training I need? I need to have something specific, that's what I'm trying to say.
Can I respond?
Yes,
What specific training would you like included?
well, that's the thing that I think might take some time to figure out. I do think that the
Nationwide
training on the
organization.
Police Officers' Bill of Rights, because that really affects us a lot. We need to know just how far we can go. That's important. I think all of this looks good, but I just, I tried to give a training, basically the training I gave was focused on our ordinance so that you understand what our guiding laws are. But, I sit down and took my time, personal time to do that, volunteered the time to create that. If we want to have something professionally done, then we have to have a budget, but it's not a training the same as this. There's some of it, but not all of it. We also need to know who we're going to have create the training for us. Do you have somebody in mind for that?
I think there's quite a bit. I didn't want to get ahead of myself if this was not passed. And so my understanding was that passing the amendment would be the first step, so that then we can make a budgetary allocation for this. If you believe that there's a need for a budgetary allocation, I'm glad to bring that back in November. I'm also very, very glad to bring back, include trained police officers' Bill of Rights, and also work with Shannon on ensuring that all of the language.
That's the thing that I think might take some
everybody,
time to figure out.
regardless if you're new or incumbent, would get that training. And so that's why I'm opening
The
it up
training
to
on
see what
the
is missing.
police,
So
yeah.
I'm hearing we need a budget. I'm hearing you would like possible proposals of people, of training institutions that could
Well,
do this.
I think what I'm trying to say is we need some specifics on what the training is. Like say, you need to do this module from them, and then you need to do this thing from there. Because otherwise, we're gonna be confused of where am I gonna get this training? It's a lot, right? There's a lot of things that we have in here, and where are we gonna get it all? That, I think it would be nice to have personal time to do that, volunteer the time to create that. Bonnie seems to disagree.
No, I don't disagree, I'm just, I don't know, and Shannon, I'm just saying this for Shannon, when you look it up, if we would put exactly where you get the training from, if you guys decided what training, yeah, it wouldn't be in the ordinance of where you would get it from. I mean, the city has procurement processes, so if you guys actually put in there what the training needed to be, then it would be on, you know, staff to go out and find.
So that then.
Organization put out an RFP or do whatever we have to do based on the dollar amount, you know, or whatever, who we would get. There's procurement processes is what I'm trying to say. You can't just, I don't think you can just say exactly who you're gonna go to, but.
So there's, I hear what you're saying, and so what I think she wants is some assurance that commissioners are gonna have some sort of roadmap or tool, you know, resources available to go to, and you don't have to independently on your own seek it out. That you have, you know, tools
what the training is,
that
like say,
can be offered, you know, like
You can
a
do this
menu
from
of
there.
offerings.
Because,
That's what you mean.
Right, because this requires a whole lot of topics. Right. There's a lot of things. Maybe we could put like maybe you have to go through, we have in here, and where we have hours of training, and then they can pick from what's available, something like that. Because right now, it looks like we have to do, I don't know, this looks like a lot of training. Yeah.
In Berkeley actually requires 40 hours.
40 hours?
And so I would love to, if you would like a numeric amount, that would be great. I would put in 40 hours of training.
I mean,
Doesn't have to be 90 days. They also use it within 6 months. And so if people feel up to 40 hours within 6 months,
that's a whole week of full days.
Or it can be broken up, like you said, in modules or different trainings. And so that was one precedent.
What about, okay, so there's a lot, I still have a lot of questions, but I saw Carmen's hand up quite some time back.
Yeah, so I actually like the fact that the chair brought up that we should include the officer bill of rights. I think that's very important for our commission in order to move forward. If we want to keep bringing recommendations up as commission or as commissioners, I do like the idea of putting at least a minimum requirement for hours of training, because we're here as a volunteer role. I understand that, but we have a mission, and that's to hold police accountable. And I think if you're on the commission, you should be fully devoted to that. So you should be able to comply with the amount of hours that we will be setting for a minimum requirement.
And maybe we could put in, I don't know, if you. This looks like a lot of training. Just NACL or whatever, some of your previous training could count towards that time limit. Okay. Dan, did you have a question?
Yeah, well, I would set a suggestion for maybe how we could discuss this when we discuss it at our next meeting. Because like some of these questions about like so it seems like a lot of these questions are about what is this going to look like, and I think that there are existing cities where they have requirements similar to this or exactly like this, and so if we saw how to if Berkeley has 40 hours a week, how do they do that? How do they organize it, and when is it and stuff? You know, just an example of, or Santa Ana, where they have I guess those exact requirements. You know, like how are those implemented for the commissioners there? Because it seems like it's workable elsewhere, and so we don't need to like
Commissioner
refigure
Norris.
out how to do it if
Commissioner-
there's other places that are doing similar things.
So, can I answer, Kim? I think the reason that I was concerned about that is reading the first one, it seems to me like most of that training would be something that would be done by the police department. Right? Their policies and procedures, and that can, almost all of that.
I think if you're on the
Police
commission, you
department's
should.
operations policies, practices, et cetera, et cetera. So somebody from the police department would need to do that, and that's what I don't, this is like, have that available to us.
And for number 2, they're still requiring that it's independently done and it has been functioning and working in there. So it does not have to be the police department. From the.
Yeah, well, I just had a
So
suggestion
it's almost
for
contradictory.
maybe how we
Seems
could.
like It can happen, Santa Ana is doing it.
It's about like
All of it.
what it, like, so it seems like a lot of these questions are about what is this going to look like.
And an outside party. So I love this idea of, maybe Dan just mentioned it, of how they're implementing it and maybe.
Or this, or exactly like this, and so.
For city attorney, they can reach out directly to Santa Ana and be able to make that recommendation to see what that looks like. And so I'm really glad to do that.
Good, that sounds good.
I mean, for me, I think it was key in terms of this proposal that.
Because it seems like it's workable.
It doesn't sound like the police is independent.
But they do know their policies and procedures. So, concerned
That's
about that is reading
why.
the first one, it seems to me like most of that training would be something, that's why sometimes
So
getting
could-
training from them on what their policies are.
Their policies and
is
procedures.
important for next, actually.
But
For
something
other
that-
things, maybe not, is,
But
Rachel?
I think it could be interesting if we could get a trainer to, because one of our goals is also recommending policies that could compare our
I don't know.
policies to other agencies perhaps. That might be something independent that could come in to also talk to us about RPD's policies. I would also add training on SB 1421 alongside the
So it does not have
right stuff, which was I guess now not that recent, but a 2019.
It can happen, Santa
Senate bill that,
It's about like, what it's like, so it seems like a lot of these questions are about what is this going to look like?
Actually, when it came into play.
about what can be publicized. And, maybe next time we're actually discussing and voting, we can talk about hours. I think 40 seems like a lot, even in 6 months. Because of the 8-hour workday is 40 hours for a whole work week.
That's vacation time, you know, that's personal time.
This
Wow.
proposal that.
Is there some amount that's more amendable to you?
I think that it would make more sense to carve out, like we have retreats, topics per, I don't know, quarter or per year of somebody's tenure.
Maybe we could do it something like this, 10 hours every 6 months. And so the longer you're on, the more training you get. I mean, I'm just throwing out ideas here, these are not numbers that we have to, that I'm.
Yeah.
So, Oscar.
I was just responding to what you said about the police, they know it, but I think also other people can just as well know it. Doesn't take a police.
Well, no, I was only thinking for the police business.
Because
We could just sit down and have a study session on the police manual, police, whatever you call it, police policy manual. But it's nice to hear it from the chief, they'll explain it to you.
Even in 6 months.
How it actually goes into practice, how they do it.
yeah, like why is it that
And then we know when
way?
they're going out, when an officer is going out of policy, that's what our job is, right, to know.
So, sorry.
But, so I don't mean to argue with you, we can hash that all that
Yeah, I'm
out.
not taking it as an
Carve
argument, but
out,
yeah.
But like both are good, I think.
I'm not sure whose hand was up first.
Right, just to go, I was just gonna finish on the hours thing, so the way that it's done as an attorney is that you have to put in your certain amount of MCLE, continuing education hours every however long it is, and there's certain topics that have to be covered as part of that.
That I'm-
Yeah, hours of ethics, et cetera. I think that also deals with the issue of within 90 days of appointment. I think it should just be continuing education for all commissioners, and then we can.
I was only thinking for the
time periods of their tenure might make more sense, and then you can have maybe like a certain number needs to be, or at least if we're not talking in terms of hours, but on the following topics within the first year, or every year they should have at least
they'll explain
one topic on use of force, one topic on constitutional
They do
authority.
it.
So
Yeah, like why is it that
And then we know when
way?
they're going out, when an officer. It's a big, huge topic, so there's a lot of things here, so narrowing it down might be hard. I think I saw Carmen first.
Commissioner, well, we're already touched upon it, but during the meeting, someone did mention that the training should be ongoing, and I strongly stand behind that. So I think not having the minimum, yes, having the minimum, but also just making sure that if it's gonna be through the ordinance to specifically state that it's an ongoing training, just like how you mentioned right now, and that all commissioners have to attend. No one can back out, because then that just creates a loophole of who has gotten this training, and then as we know, there are some allegations in regards to some commissioners don't know how meetings are ran and the processes and policies. So that's something that I do want to emphasize, that all commissioners would participate. And I think 6 months is doable, only because I feel like the commission is, I think all seats are, what's the word I'm looking for? They're filled, yes. So we don't have no more vacant seats. So now I feel like we have a good sense of direction of where to go once we start with these trainings. So we're all starting at the same time as well.
Johnny, great.
So I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm thinking maybe also with the timeline, maybe saying the first training has to be entered into within a certain time from when they start. So then they have to put in the commitment and the hours that you're saying, but it's not a specified time frame, and then maybe from there the modules of just.
Yes, having the minimum, but also just making.
That brings up another question, which is we used to have a requirement for ride-alongs, but nobody did them. There was no, if you didn't do it, there was nothing that happened. Are we going to say that if you don't comply?
This training, and then.
What are the consequences of not doing it?
Allegations in regards to we don't
that's my problem with a certain number of hours is if we have a set training.
So that's something that I do want to
emphasize
emphasize.
tracking
All
hours, and
commissioners
then everything's kicked off when we're half an hour short. I just don't like having a specific number like that instead of a topic.
Certain number of topics instead of hours.
That's what I would prefer.
I get that.
I think all seats
But
are.
still the question is, what are we gonna do if somebody doesn't do anything? Or they come up with excuses. Well, I couldn't do it because blah, blah, blah.
Or if they do it and refuse to follow it.
So I'm listening to what you.
I was also, I think that, for me, there's a preference to figure out what's foundational to be able to appropriately function as a commissioner. And maybe they're all foundational, you know? But something to look at in terms of what's foundational and what's more discretionary that we could deal with at a latter point in terms of that time frame.
So I do have a question in regards to training. So I know we're still in discussion, but you guys are mentioning that we should have a set of trainings that we start off with. So I believe in our next meeting to further discuss what would be that initial training that we have as policy. So that's something that I do want to emphasize. Yeah.
What are you suggesting?
No, I'm not suggesting a training just yet, because I still have to think about it, but.
That's what I would prefer.
Just that we agree on the first training for it to be for all the commissioners. I know I already said this already, but, just, never mind.
So you sound like an order of the modules?
Yes, in order, yes.
Basically, the first one might be learning about the ordinance, second one might be learning about the Bill of Rights, or just having them in a priority?
Yes,
order?
sorry, yes.
I think it goes to.
Figure out what the
say,
foundation
like, what are the fundamentals?
to be equipped.
And that will be prioritized at the beginning. And then the others could be that, if you are more interested in particular, I don't know, like some of them could be like everybody has to do it, and then the others could be.
So I
based
do
on
have a
the
question, we're
interest
still in
of the
discussion,
commission.
but,
Maybe that is not a good idea because then some people will have different trainings and we want you, the idea that I am hearing is that you all want to have a base of training. So there is, a basic understanding of the work that you are doing here.
And I
Just,
think
yeah,
that goes
so
back
that
to
is
what
still
Carmen
has
was saying, which is that maybe at our next meeting, we should determine what that
What do we
core
want for it to be
curriculum
for all the
should be.
commissioners?
Because this is
I
a
know
lot,
we said this
maybe we
already,
could
but-
narrow it down to like the most important critical things first, order of the modules, critical things are.
Like basically,
I
the first one.
work with the city attorney and review the ordinance.
Yeah, and you can reach out to Santa Ana, just figure out kind of how they structure it. Sorry to jump on top of what you're saying.
Figure out what's
Essentially, my goal is
foundational.
To work with city attorney because of the idea it would be to vote in the next meeting and not have an actual brainstorm session. And so having the proposal, getting these ideas and putting them, working with the city attorney to have something that's viable to move forward.
Okay,
would be-
and then I suppose if somebody wanted to make an alternate change, we could do
So I
that
do
at
have a
the next
question.
meeting. But you'll have
Maybe
something.
that
there.
is not a good
Based on
idea.
ordinance. Yes, that sounds good. And did you have a comment?
And, you know, I'd just like to just say, you know, I mean, you have pros and cons to everything. And what is good about the Richmond Police? Because when I look around the board and hear our questions and you know, our comments and everything, you know, it's pretty negative. You know, so what's good about the Richmond Police Department?
Would you like that to be a topic?
Yes.
We
that's
should
kind of-
determine what that core,
It should be.
this is a lot.
You know,
Maybe we
I mean,
can
even
narrow
with
it
all this, it's like, you know, it's just a negative to me. Because I'm here to be fair. You know, I'm not here to be against the police department or be against the community. You know, I'm here to be fair and have some moral standards. You know, so that's.
Maybe that could be what we start with, is how to conduct fair and unbiased investigations. That's an actual resource sessions.
If you are more
Getting
interested,
to one of our core missions is to look at investigations. And so if we need to be fair and unbiased, then we could start with how to do that with
You know, I'd just
investigations.
like to just say, whatever that means. Because when I look around the board and hear,
Evidence, like your role as a commissioner, is that what you're talking about, like?
Evidence, yeah.
Okay.
And I believe Berkeley has, had, sorry, the local language, but we'll look at Berkeley, and how it's investigations.
it should be.
And maybe find out who they have given training.
You know,
Because if we can tap into those same people, that would be critical, then we have the resource right there. That's what, you know, having it there in black and white, who we're going to do. Then we know that it's available, that's great. Rachel?
Can we add a requirement about the
No, I'm here to be
investigator or is that
fair.
job description stuff? Because I don't know that they get trained on also Brown Act things, including disclosing private conversations in emails to the public, which I think is possibly illegal.
To look at investigations. And,
Would they, I just think maybe they should be present for these meetings as well, but it seems like that's a question for a job description, not for the ordinance, but I don't know.
You can maybe provide that feedback.
because
to
when
the
I
recruiter.
look around the board and hear,
I like it, or to, the HR director, Sharon Taylor. I don't know if she's still on.
how, listening.
So because you say you're gonna come back with like proposals next time or proposal, just, Vice Mayor Jimenez was saying.
This is like, you know,
Just thinking about like when you take college courses, right, like you have to take so many from A or so many from B and so many from C, but you can do it in any order that you wanna do it. You know, so I'm thinking maybe something like that, like we, like you said, the core, and then others, and then people can choose almost like an elective, right? Like what part do you want to do, but you have to satisfy so many from that group. So at least it'll give people the chance to maybe focus on what they're really interested in, but yet still get, you know, whatever it is. So, I don't know, kind of.
Or what they feel like they need more training in, they can get that training.
Would they,
We might also be able to do some regional sharing of resources, like if Berkeley has this requirement that their commissioners are being trained. Like if so, like that means they must have ongoing trainings going on here in the East Bay that maybe we could participate in, and we could invite them to ours and whatever, things like that.
All right, I think everybody's tired. Let's try to wrap it up. If we have any more comments or questions. I think we're going to, thank you for bringing that forward. And now the meeting, if we are done, final call, any public comments?
We have public comment, so we have Cordell Kindler in person, and then if you're online, you can use the raise your hand feature, and we'll call you after Cordell.
So,
All right, Cordell, you have 2 minutes.
So I'm gonna sit down on this one because, after listening to the discussion, Chair Hextrom and the commissioner, so one of the things that I got out of it was, as I stated last month, is, a Brown Act training, because when I was on the library commission, that was one of my requirements. I had to attend that training to learn about how the meeting procedures, that type of
Regional
thing.
sharing
So
of
it kind of
resources,
dawned on
like-
me, and I was like, that's something that I was thinking about having, having someone come and talk to us about how the Brown Act training, how that works, and that type of thing. So I like it all, so I'm just waiting for the results to come back for next month, and that's it.
Thank you,
No
Cordell.
problem.
Okay, and
Chabi, you have 2 minutes starting
Yes,
now.
so here's the thing, right? So this 40 hours in a 6 month, even like big tech companies don't do that. What you guys are forcing? You know, I'm a resident just like you. You want to get the things done, you cannot take so much time from the police commissioner like that. Even big tech companies don't do that 40 hours mandate. You know how much that is? Hour and 45 minutes per week. Are you doing better for the community when you take that much time from a commissioner who has a full-time job? Why don't we just do it like an hour training twice a week? And this is like all this stuff that you guys are talking about, it's more like common sense. And instead of making this place better and instead of putting like so much stress on the people who are working, like people like you and me, we're just talking here. The police commissioner, they have a job, okay? And they're working to make our community safer. 40 hours, 6 months. Have you done that training lately? I'm on my 40s, and that's hard. With families, with full-time job, with kids and new materials, you need to know all these materials, you need to remember, you need to apply. Let's make it easier. You know, you want to get job done? Make a slope, the water will flow. You make it uphill, the water never flows, you know? And we need to have that kind of mindset, a constructive mindset, helping each other, you know, to make this place better. We all pay taxes. I pay taxes, I vote. And why we need to make this thing harder, you know, make it easy. Let's love each other. Let's support each other. I mean, Commissioner, hour and a 45 minutes long training a week. That's a long time. Have you done it? Have you done, like anybody done hour and a 45 minutes training every week for 6 months? No.
your time has expired. Next speaker is Lisa Johnson. Okay, Lisa, you have 2 minutes starting now.
Hi, good evening. You're almost out of there. So I just want to quickly say, it sounds like sometimes some of the commissioners are just looking for things to go after the police. And I really hope that's not the intent, but that's what it sounds like. It's like creating a product for which there's no user. So in this case, what is it that you feel you need to do your job well as the commissioner and to make the commission effective? And that's the key questions I think each of you as a commissioner need to ask to help you prioritize what those are. And go back to the first statement of your ordinance. You're trying to create a positive relationship between the community and the police. Positive, not negative. And so there's some things missing. The ride along with a police officer is hugely important, in my opinion, because it gives you insight into how they visualize their job and their experience. Talking to them gives insight for them into your experience as the person on the other end of the police. Both are important for you to do your jobs effectively, fairly, and unbiased. And I hope if you consider this, you do make the ride-alongs or coffee with a cop, something like that, part of the training, because that conversation is critical for both parties involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other public comments? There's something, have anything you want to say? You're done? Okay, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Time is 10 p.m.